Hello, everyone. Welcome to Get Connected with Julie Bartkus and my fantastic co-host and marketing guru, Mr. Michael Tasner. We're here today to talk to you about retention strategies. That's going to be our topic for the day, and not only retention with your staff, but also retention with your parents. So if retention is one of the issues that you struggle with, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to give you some personal help during this broadcast. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Everything is going pretty well this week. We went from insanely warm weather. It's like the nicest November I think that we've ever had. I think you had that same. I was like, yesterday was 74 or 77. I think with like just absolutely beautiful weather. So I still wore shorts earlier today. And I'm like, all right, I better throw some.
You're one of those people.
Yeah, I try and hold out as much as I can.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was the exact same thing here in Chicagoland. And actually, I was out driving with my sister last night when the storm came in, and I literally saw the temperature like right on my car drop from 70 something to 50 something. I'm like, oh man, here it is. It's over. Kiss it goodbye. So, but it's, but the sun's still shining. So, I can't complain. I'm very thankful for the warm up that we had.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm just going to post a little note on here, seeing if we throw out the question of retention. But I'm excited for today.
I'm excited too.
I think we'll kind of ping pong and kind of cover both angles of how do you continue to retain great team members and great staff, which we've been talking a lot about team because that really has been one of, if not the top questions, areas. Hey, I mean, Michael and Julie, I need help. I need help not only on adding enrollments to drive some cash flow, but I need staff to go with it. I mean, you can't just magically add 100 enrollments and then not have the staff, or if you add a bunch of enrollments and all of a sudden your director decides to leave or a couple of teachers, you're kind of in that grind, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we're going to ping pong.
We have clients who are like, I can't fully enroll because I don't have the staff. So, the two, marketing and staff, really go hand in hand. I don't think you could have one working without the other. You can't enroll without having your, at least those, I hate to say it, but what we think of as those bodies in place. We at least have to have people in there. But what we really want to do is take it to a whole different level for you, to where you're not just attracting and hanging on to any staff or any clients, but you've got your dreamy ones in place and you know how to retain them. So retention, I think, is going to be really fun. And I think the problem with retention, Michael, and I'm sure that you see this too, is that we get somebody in place, whether it's a new client, new staff member, we're like, woohoo, yes, we got them. And then we just do the happy dance and we get on with life. And then we forget that we had them in the first place without remembering how much they really mean to our childcare business success. So we really want to help you see how important the retention factor is, and then look at ways that are so effective when it comes to retaining your staff and parents and clients.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and same thing with when a family comes in. So I'm hearing, I mean, it's definitely been the Wild West this year by a factor of like 50. And it's just, and everyone's trying to look for some normalcy, but I think you got to just keep living life. And this is in no means a COVID rant by any means, but you can't just, stay on the sidelines and play the what if games and just kind of hope that things just get better. You've got to be taking action, because I don't know about you, Julie, but I've been fielding more phone calls from centers, regardless of whether it's one location or multiple, that I hate to use the word desperate, but there's definitely, some desperation in their voice of I got to get this rolling. And it's not just, the cash flow coming from those enrollments, but also the team. So as Julie was saying about, you get the great staff in, and then you kind of, you put that down and then you move on to the next thing. And maybe the next project, so to speak, is, fixing up this room or adding onto the building or getting into
the next staff member in.
Yeah, like you move on. And it's the same thing with enrollments, that parents are a lot more fickle right now than they ever have been. So there used to be a lot more loyalty, and in a lot of cases there still are, and there still is. There's a lot of centers that I know both of us work with, that parents just, I mean, they're head over heels in love with the center, the director, the owner, the atmosphere,
Yeah.
everything. But then if it's a new center, they're going to kind of keep an eye on things, and they're watching to see how that first month or two goes.
Yeah, and it's so true with retention. I think it's a really overlooked strategy. And last week we were talking about the lifetime value. I think it was last week, about the lifetime value of one client. And you've got to keep that in mind. And then you also have to keep in mind, well, what's the turnover cost? When I do turnover staff, what does that cost me? Because if we look at some of the biggest profit killers for your childcare business, you're going to see it a lot in the turnover in clients and in staff. But I'll give you a little number here, is that if you're looking at turnover, you could typically take what somebody's going to be making on an annual basis, multiply that by 30%, and that's what one person turning over can cost you. And believe me, I know there is good turnover, right? There is a clearing of house, clearing of energy. But when you have people who are just, surprise, I'm leaving, surprise, I'm leaving, you're like, oh crap, all the training I just spent, all the different things I just invested into that person, and now they're gone. And we want to change that. We want to change it for you.
Oh, and it's also, I mean, I'll give personal examples as we kind of talk about retention as well. It's probably one of the biggest challenges that I've had this year. Retaining good team members. And so let's kind of jump into sharing some ideas, but in kind of ping pong, we'll jump between staff and parents, and kind of ping pong to kind of keep it fun and interactive. But it's the same challenge that I've had, and a lot of businesses have had this year, of keeping those good people. And I hear a lot of the same kinds of things, and I've caught myself saying some of these things, like, well, why people, they don't want to work if there's all these incentives to, I mean, unemployment and this extra 600 here and this, and like, so you can tell yourself those things, but are those really as Julie loves to say, and I've caught on to her languaging of are those the dreamy types of team members that you want? I mean, if they're more concerned about making sure they get all of the free money from the government and they want to stay on the sidelines, if you're looking for someone that really wants to work with kids and be a part of a fun culture, I mean, is that the type of team member that you really want? So let's dive in and start with some retention ideas, and let's start with staff, and just kind of start there and ping pong some ideas, and we'll give some good value today. And I'm going to monitor for some questions. I know we've already got one question, but let's keep the questions coming as well, please.
Okay. Yeah. And if you're here tuning in, which is more of a challenge for you? Is it staff, or is it clients, or is it both for you? So where are you having your biggest problem when it comes to retention? And this could probably be a show, Michael, that we could do like over several weeks, because there's so many different retention strategies. And you could take the retention strategies too that I give you for staff, and you could apply them for your parents or your clients. And I'm sure there will be some crossover with what Michael shares too, where it's like, oh, that'd be a really good one to do with your staff. But the first one that I'm going to give you is, when it comes to staff and you just hired them, you just get them in the classroom, is don't forget that they exist. So remember that you just hired a new staff person. What I want you to do is, especially during that first week of employment, I want you to be checking in with that person, maybe on a daily basis, especially if you don't have a mentor in your organization set up. And even Michael, in your organization, you check in with that person every single day and say, how's it going? What support do you need from me? What questions do you have? Where are you getting frustrated? So you just check in with them with different questions so that you're right there problem solving with them all along. Because, it's one thing to get them in, do the happy dance, then get on with your day and go next. But then before you know it, that person quits without notice. And one of our clients who I was on a coaching call with this week, she had somebody new who came in, and they didn't even tell her they were quitting. It was even before they could sign the new employee agreement. She had them already working in a classroom. And she says, they just like up and quit and said, I'm out of here. This isn't for me. Somebody else is going to pay me more, whatever it is. She had all these different excuses. But the bottom line is that the owner didn't even know that person was thinking about moving on after just a few days. And I've seen it get so bad in organizations before people contract with me, where they have 5, 6, 7 people who leave in one day. They go out to
Oh
lunch
well.
together, and guess what happens? They don't come back. And I don't want that to happen to you. So check in with your new staff often. How's it going? What successes are you experiencing? And have those conversations. You could even do a midweek lunch with the person, but really don't forget that they exist, because you just hired one of the most important assets to your organization, especially if you did your due diligence and you feel like, oh, this is a really good person. You don't want to lose them.
Love it. So I'm going to share one that's kind of similar, but one of the things that I've been seeing a lot on different Facebook groups, your group, my group, and just other childcare groups on Facebook and other sites, is that a lot of people are writing, so I hired XYZ person, and geez, they didn't even show up for day one. So one of the things that we've started doing, there's a few things. So the first one is we don't rush the process. However, we try and keep a sense of urgency, because and the types of people that I'm hiring are going to be quite different from the types of people that our listeners are hiring. I'm hiring internet marketing people, digital marketing people that sit behind a computer. I mean, those types of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's I wouldn't say it's in more demand, because childcare is heavily in demand, but there's lots and lots of options. I mean, you just need a computer. And what I'm finding is that there's a lot of people that are hedging their bets, and they're applying to a lot of different places. And they might be looking at different childcare centers that have openings, because a lot of your competitors have openings.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to apply here and here and here and here. And it's not necessarily the early bird gets the worm, but once you kind of get them into your funnel and your flow, what I want to make sure that you're doing is continuing to move with a sense of urgency. And when you finally kind of have reeled them in, you've made the decision to hire that person, you get the paperwork signed, assuming that's the flow and the process that you're taking. That's at least my process, is
Mm-hmm.
we make an offer letter, they sign it, we pick a start date, and then we move to kind of contracts. Is there one or two small things that you can do before they walk in the door? So some simple examples. So what we do is we send a little care package, a little gourmetgiftbaskets.com usually is the site that we'll use, but I'll try and personalize it to the person. So if it's a gentleman that's starting, and I know, I mean, most guys, unless they're a vegetarian, they like beef jerky. So there's like this neat place that sells, it's like the Manly Jerky Company or something. And they like, it's literally a bouquet of beef jerky.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Nice.
your boyfriend is a vegetarian, but
No, he loves jerky.
he's got a big build on
This
him.
bouquet of jerky.
Yeah, I literally was saying, like, he's got a big build on him and strong guy, so he probably would like that. But my wife got me one of those for Christmas a year or two ago, and I've been sending that to all of our male team members that start. So something that just shows them that you're excited, and candidly and selfishly, it also puts a little bit of pressure to make sure that they show up. The other thing that you can do, if you have business cards, so if it's a director position, for example, mail them their business cards before day one. So you're getting a couple of things out there. You're showing them you're taking things seriously. If you've got swag for your center, shirts, I mean, mouse pad, whatever you've got, put some of that stuff in a box and do it before day one, not on day one, but before day one. And try and make a little bit of a spectacle in a way. And I mean, for key positions, we've even went as far as sending, if we knew they were either married or living with a significant other, we've tried to make it a point to actually send their spouse or their significant other something and saying, and thank you for, I know that your wife recently decided to come back to the workforce. Thank you for allowing us to have her. I mean, something that's just probably not in that perfect, that's that right wording, but almost kind of thanking the spouse and saying, we're going to take great care of him or her. And just those little things to do before, I think definitely help with at least getting them to show up, but it puts a little bit of a better flavor in their mouth, because I mean, usually things are going to be chaotic. I mean, they're I just started a new person last week, and I was hoping that we could have a little bit of ramp up time for her, and things have changed in the last week where now she's having to ramp up like 5 times sooner than we thought. So just trying to do some of those little extra things.
Awesome. No, that's great. Great strategies. And there's a whole, there's a lot of different things that you can do with orientation and onboarding and all these kind of ideas. But the next idea I want to give you is to really make sure that your interview questions are on point. Because I want to play off of what Michael was saying. And if you have people who aren't showing up for the interview, or people who come and then they quit after a few days, there's something else going on that needs to be fixed. So really we could back up, everything that you're doing to attract, to interview, to hire, and really look at where is the problem stemming from. So what is the real issue? And a lot of times when we look at our clients' interview questions, they're really a mess, and they're not targeting our dreamy team members. They're just great interview questions that we found in a book, and we think that they're going to work. But what I love to do is develop like personalized interview questions so that it really helps you to hire right from the start, because you hire from who you're being in this world. And those are the people that you are attracting. So if we're able to change and shift the energy around our hiring process, get right interview questions in place, then I think you're going to have a much higher chance of winning the retention formula. So part of it is about what you're doing and who you're being after the person is hired, but it's also about, well, how are you attracting and what kind of questions are you asking this person? And we have owners who have even stopped checking references. And there's a whole formula for checking references. Even if it feels like you can't really get anywhere with those, there's a lot of different things that you can tell from a reference check. So if you need that information, let me know. We've got a free resource for you. But look at your interview questions. This is going to be homework for everybody. Right when we're done, or even right now, go read those interview questions and ask yourself, does this help me really see that this person is not going to have certain destructive behaviors in the workplace that I've encountered before? And that's really critically important.
No, that's a great thought, because if I were just to make up a random number, I mean, at least in the last week, I've seen 10 to 15 different people say, how do you get people to show up for day one? And to your point, there's got to be something else that's broken if that's happening. So exactly. I've never had somebody not show up to day one. I definitely have lost candidates that we've made an offer to, that were leveraging our offer to get a better offer at their existing place, or ping-ponging. So I've had that happen to me many times, but I've never had somebody not show up to day one.
Yeah. And it's heartbreaking when it happens to our childcare owners and directors, because you put a lot of time and you build up a lot of hope and a lot of anticipation for the person. And then if they just don't show up, or they just come in for a few days and then they're gone, it's like, oh, and then you're crushed, and then your mindset goes back to lack and limitation. So it's this whole circular pattern that you're in that we want to really break you out of, so that you start thinking different thoughts, developing a different mindset around what's really possible, so that you start getting a different result. And that, I know, is a big, deep thought that we could get on a logical basis, but until we implement it and really go, okay, this happened, I started thinking different thoughts, and now I'm going to get a different result going forward. I'm going to break out of this pattern. That is the biggest way to start getting people to show up. So recognize your own patterns in this. Do you have people who aren't engaged with your program, or they tell you one thing during the interview and then they're a whole different way when they get into the workplace? So really identify what is the pattern of the kinds of people that you're attracting, and then let's back it up and figure out, well, how do we break you out of that pattern? And that's really important.
Great advice. Good advice.
And it's exciting because then you're not dealing with the same issue, the same problem over and over and over again, where most of the time it's like, oh, there we go. That happened again. Yep. Knew it would. That happened again. And we really want to break you from that.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I've been doing a lot of, so we've had more turnover this year than I've had in quite some time. And I've been doing a lot of self-reflection to that exact point of that there's a few things that are broken in our process of, we shouldn't be hiring people that last 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then move on, or 8 months, or whatever it is.
Right.
And we found that it's a lot of things. So I know we'll talk some other retention strategies shortly, but we found flaws in our hiring process, where in one case we didn't check a reference
Yeah.
because we just took by face value if somebody had 10 years experience. And I'm like, in the same company, like there's somehow it just fell through the cracks. And then we've had other situations where, to your point, we've kind of thrown people to the wolves and haven't checked in enough. And then a
Yeah.
week or two later, they're like overwhelmed. And then it's just overwhelmed for 3 months. And they're like, I've been overwhelmed like before even day one you were setting this stuff. So you definitely want to be self-reflecting, because a lot of it is back to you. So let's pivot. Go ahead,
and that word, I just want to make, just to
please.
make this big point, is that the word that you just used, the word overwhelm, and I probably have said it on other shows before, it is the cause of turnover. People get overwhelmed, especially staff. Staff get overwhelmed, they check out. And chances are they mentally check out long before they physically check out. So even if they're going to check out physically at 3 days, you may have already lost them at day 1 or day 2, and they're just hanging in there going, oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I get myself into? So really remember that. And I would write down the word that turnover is because of overwhelm, and people mentally check out before they physically check out.
That's a great point. As always, I'm processing as you're talking, because
See the wheels turning.
yeah, it is, because I'm like, oh geez, well, that was the phrase that someone used recently. Like I'm mentally. You could tell when someone starts to mentally check out. So
Yeah.
so let's ping pong over, and let's throw one regarding parent retention.
Parents.
So I'll throw one out there, and then throw the tennis ball back over to you, or the ping pong ball.
Okay.
Got to get one of those.
Oh, we just got a ping pong table, so that's pretty timely.
Yeah, my kids have been asking. So I feel really old today. Well, not today. It'll be on Friday. But my twins, my oldest kids are 12. Now they turned 12 on Friday, and I'm like, so I started pretty young.
Wow.
So I'm 36, soon to be 37 in March. But I'm like, wow,
a youngster.
Yeah. But they're getting TVs in their rooms, so I was trying to deal with that this week. So that's that age, I guess. But parent retention. So
Yes.
Similar to team, when they first come on, I want you to look at how the heck you can just wow them from the start, because once somebody signs the paperwork, they instantly go into questioning themselves. Did I make the right decision? Did we pick the right center? Is this, did we do the right thing for little Johnny? Should we be waiting? Should we have looked at this center? Like they start questioning it after they start to sign the papers. So you want to look at what can you do to really deliver a wow experience over the first couple of days, the first week, the first month. So
yeah, and I think that's called buyer's remorse, right?
Exactly.
You know, you sign on the dotted line for that car, and it's like, ooh, did I get the right car?
And I was just pulling up a book. I believe that it's so there's an amazing book. I just want to pull it up real quick.
Okay.
It's Customer Satisfaction is Worthless. This is by Jeffrey Gitomer, the guy that wrote a bunch of books around sales. And it's just one of my favorite books. So it's in my top 10. And it's just all about how to make your customers, your parents love you so they continue to come back. And he gives a lot of different analogies. And because he had a lot of experience in the hotel industry. So he would give a lot of hotel analogies of what makes XYZ hotel different from this one, if they've got, the same type of beds and things like that. So there's the little things. But then he goes into some really kick butt examples, and I could think of some examples in the hotel industry, and then I'll come back to the childcare industry. But I went to a conference in Michigan, and I checked into the room, and a few minutes later, I hear a knock on the door, and it was them delivering some really nice water, delivering a local wine, And then also a huge platter of cheese, like not one of those like $5 cheese platters, but something you probably pay like $50 for at a restaurant or more. Just our compliments. We want to make you feel welcome.
Aw.
We figured you probably had just those little things. And then I take a picture, I put it up on Facebook, I tag where I
Mhm.
am. And then I've been telling that story at like marketing conferences for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's looking at, are there some little things that you can do to just relax the parent? Now, there's things that I would call necessary that every center is going to do or should do. So the teacher kind of sending a couple of messages to the parents in the first few days, because they're sitting there watching their phone or their email just to get an update. Or if your center has cameras, they're checking in on the cameras, some more obsessively than others. So there's going to be things like that and you can anticipate. But are there a couple of other really small things that you could do? And my favorite example that we've encouraged centers to do is to give, it doesn't have to be a big amount, but let's say $40, $50, a gift certificate to a local restaurant, but also to offer the childcare with it. Hey, as a new family, we know that life is stressful, and just as a small way to welcome you to our ABC Academy family, for example. Here's a gift certificate to one of our favorite restaurants. I hope you'll like it there. And let us know in the next week or two when you'd like to go, and you can drop Johnny or whomever off, and we'll make sure that they're taken care of for free as well. So it's those little things that they create those micro moments that it disarms them, it excites them, they talk about it. And I would be lying to tell you if I could tell you how many centers are actually doing this, because you overthink stuff, life gets in the way. And said with love, I mean, a lot of you don't want to invest the money.
Right.
Well, gee, $50 gift certificate. I mean, what if I get 10 new enrollments and I got to spend $500? But my pushback to you is, what if you could save one enrollment? That, let's say something comes up, so another child bites their son or daughter, and not saying that they're not going to react, but if you've built up a little bit of, I guess, emotional trust or emotional equity or emotional goodwill in the bank, they might be a little bit more responsive or a little bit more understanding. So it's looking at trying to just give them some reasons to kind of relax a little bit, but just wow them. So that was my, well, there's supposed to be a minute or two that turned into like a 5-minute conversation.
That's all right. Well, I think it's great. And whenever we did the Childcare Business Success Conference, and I would go to a hotel that I loved, it was the Westin. Why did I love the Westin? Well, I would get there, I would check into my room, kick my shoes off, knock on my door, and then there it would be, a bottle of wine and the cheese platter, and I'd be like, whoa, this is really nice, with a handwritten card. And it wasn't probably the huge cheese platter, but it really makes a difference, especially for a weary traveler. And I think that's such a big deal. And I'll give you another example of that too. And I love to collect these examples because we're always looking for those wow moments, like what wows me, and think about what kind of experience has wowed you, and then transform that into something that you're going to wow your parents with or your staff with. Another time I remember I was speaking, and I think I flew into Florida. I was hot, I was tired. I was renting a car, and I got to the car rental place, and there was this guy dressed really nice handing out cold bottles of water. And it was as simple as that, to give a weary traveler a cold bottle of water when you're not traveling with water anymore. So it's like, it was just such a nice, refreshing thing. So some of these little things can add up to be big things, and it's all just about relationship building. And do things that excite you, do things that you would love to receive, and the energy behind it, I think, is going to be even more monumentous. It's going to help you really gain that big momentum when it comes to having your customers have faith in you and your staff.
Definitely. So let's pivot back to staff, and we'll do another staff one, and then maybe we'll do one more on parent retention. So do you want to go, or would you like me to go on staff retention?
Ooh, do you have something to go with?
I probably need
Otherwise,
a minute to think. I'll let
okay.
you go. I know you've got a bunch that are ready, locked and loaded. I'll come up with one
Okay.
in just a minute.
So I think a very powerful strategy that a lot of people don't have a lot of success with because we're doing it incorrectly is surveys. Using surveys with your staff, and we could even talk about it from a parent perspective, but a lot of people do surveys, they don't get real responses back, they don't get honest feedback. But if you could get to the place with your team where they are giving you honest feedback, you can use their feedback to really help you build an incredibly successful program. And for your new staff, or even for your existing staff, ask them in a survey, what's driving your motivation every day? What is it that you absolutely love? What is it that you rave to others about? What is it that we could start doing, or what is it that we could stop doing that isn't really serving you? But the biggest challenge isn't necessarily in coming up with the survey questions, it's in getting your team's feedback open, honest, and turned into you. So, but if you can really hear their thoughts and take them into consideration, you've got a winning formula. But I could go through a couple problems with surveys. Sometimes we collect them and then people are like, well, what did you ever do with that feedback that I gave you? And nothing gets done. So
That's a good point.
The fortune is in the follow-up in many different ways. So with surveys, with whatever it is that you're going to do. So make sure that you follow up. If you send surveys out, you let people know, thank you. Here are the ideas that we're implementing. Here's what we're going to put on the bench for later. Here's what we're going to talk about at a team meeting or a parent meeting, whatever it might be. But using surveys can be incredibly powerful. And there's specific ways that you could do it to really maximize their benefit.
There's a great tool, and I know I've mentioned it in the past, but my favorite tool for doing this kind of survey is a tool called tinypulse.com.
Okay.
And there's two reasons for it. Well, there's a variety of reasons, but the first reason is it's 100% anonymous. So when you use tools like Google Forms, SurveyMonkey, whatever tool that you want to use, I'm not a fan of using the free version of SurveyMonkey for many reasons. The big reason is on the free version, so my 10-second aside, but I will tell you that it's caused a lot of weird conflict. When you fill out a survey and then on the final page after you hit submit, if you're using the free version, they route you to a thank you page, but it has advertisements on there. And they can use any advertisements that they want. So there's been political advertisements. There's been like really weird advertisements, if you can read between the lines on that one, that I've seen some parents say, what kind of weirdness are you sending me here? So don't use the free version of that tool.
And then they're confused and then they're overwhelmed and you defeat your purpose.
Exactly. But I've seen with Tiny Pulse, it's 100% anonymous. That's their entire business model is based on anonymity. There's no way for you as the owner to track down who says what. No way at all. So that's the first piece. The second, and then they're able to show that to the team so they aren't worried about submitting feedback. Number two is it sends out a weekly question, one question.
Love
and
that.
Once a month, it sends out the same question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate rate your happiness or your level of satisfaction with your job? It's basically a net promoter, same question every month, once a month. But then the other three are things like, there's some that are generic, but there's 40 plus other questions during the course of the year. Things like, if our company has one word, how would you describe it? Or if you were the owner, what would you change immediately? Just different things like that. So that's the other neat thing is that you're getting, and it takes like 30 seconds. So there's that one. And then the third thing is that it has a really neat section called Cheers for Peers. So I'm going to move that one into, I guess, my recommendation on team retention is to acknowledge them in a public environment on a more regular basis. So we do Cheers for Peers every week, and anyone can send a cheers to another team member. And it can be for small things like, oh, thank you for XYZ teacher for subbing in for me at the last minute. Just getting some water here. I just ordered last week.
I'm going to join you.
A honey. a honey throat spray or something. I never even knew something like this existed to like help coat your throat when you're doing like
Oh,
Facebook Lives like this. So, like you and I
oh,
are on the phone and Zoom like all day long. That supposed to help with that. But
I might have to
it
look into it
allowed.
because yesterday I got a little raspy after all my
Yeah,
training.
I'll send it over to you. I can't wait for it to come. So I ordered that, and then I ordered the complete opposite. There was somebody in one of my Facebook groups that it's called the world's best cookie ever. So
Ooh.
I think they're in Los Angeles. So I ordered a bunch of those. Also, the world's most expensive cookie for one was like with shipping, like I think with shipping like $6 a cookie. But
Wow.
I'm excited to try those. So I ordered
And
something
they're just
healthy to
plain
help.
cookies. They're just the
A bunch of different flavor, like chocolate chip. One is like a cinnamon, but like a churro. I don't know. She's been getting some rave reviews and kind of bootstrapped it from the ground up. So I always like those stories.
oh,
Um,
cool.
but the tool, the Tiny Pulse, it allows people to send these cheers. Thank you for this. Thank you for like just acknowledging each other. So what we do is every week we have a team meeting, which is another key thing for retention. But having those meetings, and then at the end of it, we read one by one every one of those cheers. And you can put who it's from if you want, or you can leave it anonymous. But we then take every one of those people. Not only do we read them, once a month, we put everyone on one of those little spin tools, free tools on the internet, put everyone's
Right.
name on there. We give away anywhere between $100 and $200 cash money. And I think last month we did $100 and an extra day off. And
Nice.
usually for Christmas, usually we raise it. So and that's $1,200 during the course of the year that we're giving. But it's not just the money. But people love getting an extra $100. But it's to be able to continuously at the end of the meeting every single week hear about all the good, because I know personally speaking, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that I hear and the stuff that I deal with is not the good stuff. I deal with this is messed up. We've got this hiring issue, this billing issue, like, and same thing with you as an owner or a director or a childcare leader. I mean, you're not often dealing with all the great stuff, and you're having to deal with more of the problems. So it's great to
Right.
end meetings and hear about that stuff, but that also it's one of it's constantly been ranked as one of the favorite things that our staff has and does consistently.
I love that. I think that's a great tool. And I think pointing out those positives as much as possible is really important. So that's a really good one. Now, what about surveys with parents? Have you done any work with those or getting parents to actively complete surveys to help their retention levels?
Great question. So similarly, you can use Tiny Pulse in the opposite end of using it with with your parents. But I have found that that's a little bit overkill, where they're getting one question every single week.
Mhm.
So we typically have tried to do anywhere between 3 and 6 surveys a year, but very, very short and strategically timed. So usually after the first week or two, like not waiting 6 months, but maybe at the end of week one, the end of month one, maybe month two, and then maybe month 4, 6, 12, for example. So, but usually really, really short. Is there anything we can be doing better? I'm a big fan of NPS, Net Promoter Scores. I like to be able to have some kind of metrics rather than
Mhm.
just feel. I feel like I use the word feel too much, which I
Right.
do. I don't
We're
want to.
we're
Well,
we're a feeling industry.
yeah, like I feel that everyone's happy. That's good, but I want some metrics. If everyone's happy, how likely are these parents to refer other parents? Because if you're telling me that traditionally word of mouth is your number one source of new business and new enrollments, and you're telling me that your net promoter score it is not good, it's going to reflect otherwise. So definitely a couple of surveys, short, sweet, and I always recommend throwing in some kind of prize. It's just, and you make it fun. It doesn't have to be everyone that submits this is going to get a $5 Starbucks gift card. It doesn't have to be that formal, but it just as a small thank you, we're going to draw one winner for a spa basket, or I mean, just something you got to start being a little bit different. If everyone is doing the same kind of stuff. If everyone is saying, leave me a review and I'll draw for a winner for a $20 Amazon gift card.
Yeah.
Your local business, start looking and thinking locally. What businesses can you network with and maybe get some deals on some of their stuff? But if you're supporting them, they're going to support you. And think about what other things the parents could use in their busy lives. Maybe you're giving away, dry cleaning gift certificates or something like that. And it's, well, what do you mean dry cleaning? Well, if it's something that they're using, but you're then able to build some kind of strategic partnership with that dry cleaner. Because if
one of my favorites is pizza. Go and talk to the local, not the chain pizzas necessarily, but go talk to the local mom and pop pizza place and say, listen, I'd love to send a slew of business your way. So I'm wondering if we could create a coupon or have some kind of collaborative relationship to where we give a pizza away to our new families or to our families who have been here 6 months or whatever it might be, or to staff. And, they come and get their one pizza for free, but then they get, they'll probably order, another pizza at least. But the idea here too, is that if you talk and you build some of these relationships, is that you could easily get them just to charge you cost for the pizza. So instead of you paying the $30 for the pizza, maybe you come up with an agreement where you're going to pay $7 for the pizza, and new families, new staff members, or people at their 6-month mark or year mark, whatever, get that pizza. It's a great collaborative relationship. And
now I'm hungry.
Pizza.
So do I. Oh my gosh.
We'll have to get you out here to Chicagoland, and it'll be,
that's that was one of, out of everything that I miss with all the craziness, it's definitely travel. I love to travel and speak, and
the foods.
Yeah, the food is like, and every time I go to Chicago, I make sure I get the good Chicago style pizza. And even if it was in an airport, and it's obviously not perfect, but one of my favorite restaurants is, I haven't been there in quite some time, but that Ed DeBebek's restaurant, where they, I don't know if you've been there, but it's definitely an interesting, where they basically make fun of you. No, they make fun of you. So their whole model is it is to be rude. So fun, I guess, 30-second story, and then maybe we'll give our last favorite tip on either hiring or staff. So I was brought to this restaurant. It was probably, maybe 20 years ago. It was a while ago, and went there, and then I asked for something like, I don't know, silverware or water or something. I can't remember, but the waiter replied, why don't you just go get it yourself, Sally, or just something like, what the heck kind of place is this? So I kind of brushed. I'm like, he's obviously not in a good mood. And then so I started ordering, then okay, fine. Started ordering, and then he was like tapping. It's like, sometime today, I got a lot of tables. I look around, there's like nobody there, and said, a lot of tables. I said, we're the only people in here. I finally started to catch on that they're like, because they saw a lot, like my patience was starting to run out, and I don't have a lot of great patience.
So you didn't know you were in for the rude treatment.
No. I finally, they're like, okay, you got to calm down. That's what they do here. And then I started having fun with it, but definitely a unique way to create an experience. So I'll throw my favorite kind of final tip for today.
Okay.
And I'm gonna give one on staff. So I would think I would do one on
parents, back to staff.
Yeah, I want to give the staff one. So I've talked about this in the past, but out of every single thing that I've done, my most favorite thing to do is my dream program. And again, the book is called The Dream Manager. That's also in my top 10. And I've been doing this program for, 8 years. I gave the synopsis of this, if you haven't heard of it, is the book is all about dreams and how can you make your staff's dreams come true. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to pay for everything or that you have to do everything. But the premise is that if you're able to facilitate, if you're able to contribute, or even if you're just aware of their dreams, that will build an insane amount of loyalty. And I can tell you that when I start thinking about my best team members that have been with me through thick and thin, and like all of you, I mean, the ride of both Julie and I are entrepreneurs and small business owners. And I mean, the ride, I mean, is up and down, and there's some wonderful days and there's some challenging days. But I can look back at my staff that have been there through thick and thin, and that I know will be there through thick and thin. Mm-hmm. And they're people that I am consciously aware of their dreams. And most of them, I've actually granted one of their dreams. So we design a little dream board. So on day one, they submit a dream questionnaire. And it's, where do you want to go? What do you want to, where do you want to visit? What do you want to buy? What do you want to learn? Like all these questions. And then our graphic designer makes a beautiful dream board. We email it over to them. We get one printed so they can actually put it behind, like these neat Monopoly things behind me. So they can put it up. And then a couple of times a year, I look over everyone's dream boards and I do one of two things. Number one, I decide to spontaneously grant a dream or two, which I just did about a month ago. Nice. And I call a team meeting, and they have no idea what it is. And I do some formal stuff, and then I pivot and I award a dream. And they've been small things, and they've been huge things that have been, I mean, $5,000 gifts. But I can tell you again that the amount of loyalty and the types of things that they'll do, the types of people they'll refer, they're the people that refer the most team members to us. They'll just go the extra mile, and it's not because you rewarded them, but if you're granting dreams, what other company? I mean, there's other companies that do this, but they're few and far in between. I can't tell you any childcare center that I know of that we work with that does this. But just imagine the power of that if you're helping, even again, the small things. What if you have someone who's 35 years old and they're a teacher for you, and one of their dreams is to get their driver's license? You're like, what do you mean? Like, and you had no idea that for the last 2 years that they've been getting dropped off by their spouse. And what if you're able to, you pay for driving lessons, you give them the day off to take the test, like you just, those kinds of things, it shows that you care at a level that is far beyond anything else that you can reward with an extra day off or an extra $1 an hour. It just takes it to another level. So that's my favorite strategy. And that's the one that I practice what I preach. I might award one more at Christmas. We usually do something in January to start the year off. But I've probably granted 10 to 15 dreams to the tune of probably $50,000 or more. But I mean, some of them have been small and some of them have been big, but it just, I can't say enough about it. So that would be mine. And don't get overwhelmed with thinking about the concept, but I mean, what else could you do with that? What if it's small things? I mean, what if some of your teachers want to get their certifications, the CDA certificate? I mean, if there's just different things like that, that it doesn't have to be self-serving to you. That'll be my last comment. And then I'll throw the ping pong ball back over to you. It doesn't have to be like self-serving to your business. That if one of their dreams is to have their own fashion line. So let's say they were working for Julie, for example. Well, you obviously now have a lot of experience about how to get gear designed and the design process and making logos and contests and finding fulfillment. And so you could say, well, what do you mean they want to have their own fashion business? I run a childcare, business, childcare business, helping childcare professionals. But imagine if you were to help them accomplish that by using some of your other skills and knowledge. Doesn't mean they're going to leave you. It just means that they aspire to do additional things. And if you're the one granting it, hopefully they're going to reward you with some really great loyalty. So that's what I got.
I definitely think so. I think that's a fantastic strategy. I love that one. Every time you share it, I was like, oh yeah, dreams, talking about dreams. It's such a good, powerful thing. The strategy that I want to give you as my last one is to engage people, engage staff, engage parents with something that does not cost anything. The only requirement is that you be transparent and that you be vulnerable and that you own this. And what I'm talking about, and if you followed me for any length of time, you're probably like, oh, she's going to say this. You're probably right, because I'm going to say engage people with your story. Your story is what makes you you. And when you share your story, especially during the interview process or the intake process, you're engaging people from the start. And then what you want to do with that story is make it growing and expanding every single day. So it's not just a dead end, like, oh, that was nice, and now it doesn't mean anything. You want that story and your vision for your program to mean something more to your people, to your community of followers. You want it to mean more day after day after day after day after day, so that story and your vision means more to them in 6 months from now than it did when they first started. But when they first started, they were still moved to tears because of how much that story impacted them. And it is a powerful tool, and it really cures a lot in your organization when you get that story in place. It creates maximum engagement, maximum buy-in, and it helps you attract your people, the right people, the people who resonate with who you are and what it is that you're bringing to life.
Love it. I was actually getting emotional as you were talking about it, because it is just so damn powerful. And
Yeah.
I know that there's so much hustle going on right now. And I know that a lot of you listening are going through challenging times, and some of you are thriving. Some of you are, barely scraping by, but we're here for you. And that's why we continue to do these episodes for you, trying to give as much as we possibly can. And as always, if Julie or myself can be of help, I want to put Julie's info up here. And we threw down the gauntlet last week. And I think I should get an email blast to my list, and can write one for you as well. But I think we want to throw on the gauntlet of having some more people kind of joining us, and just kind of growing together. A rising tide rises all tides. So let me throw Julie your, what do you have going on now? I know last week you had
probably gossip training.
yeah, gossip training. What would you like me, where can our listeners go and
so we do have a free gossip training going on right now. So, and actually I'm going to be facilitating it like 15 minutes after we wrap up the show. But if you want to go to childcarebusinesssuccess.com, and you could join the free group. And when you join that free group, you'll get a link to our Facebook group. And then you could come join the Facebook group for free, and you'll be able to access the training for free. So it's just a couple of steps. Go to childcarebusinesssuccess.com. and you'll find out more information there. And we also have a VIP coaching program going on that I'm super excited about. And we're on the phone every single week tackling all these tough staff issues. If you want to be a part of that, simply shoot me a message here on Facebook or leave a comment. You can reach out to me, Julie at childcarebusinesssuccess.com, for more information.
I put your link up there as well, juliebartkus.com/enroll in VIP.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
So I had that lock and loaded, ready to go.
Awesome.
And ours is local childcare marketing. And again, our focus is on driving enrollment, driving revenue. And that is now more important than ever. It just continues to be more and more important. A lot of centers are like, well, maybe we'll wait till next year. If you wait until next year, you're already behind the 8 ball. So you need to start getting your ducks in a row now, getting some momentum so that come January, you're not starting up and then getting your systems going, and then all of a sudden January's gone. You only added 5 enrollments when you wanted to add 50. So localchildcaremarketing.com, you can schedule a free enrollment acceleration session.
Do it. Do it.
Do you have a quote that you'd like to send us off with today?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. I could pull one. I'm going to have to pull some questions. I actually have like pages of hundreds of quotes. So let me pull one here. I'm going to see if I can find one regarding team. And did we have any questions that we need to answer, or are we good?
I think we covered most. So we had a couple people said they love the pizza idea.
Mm.
So I like that. We had a couple of hellos. Amy Fish says hello to Julie. Julia says love the
Amy.
pizza. Love doing the pizza stuff. We had one question about just keep going on your retention idea. So that wasn't really a question; it was a comment.
It was like, woo,
But
keep going and
I
keep going.
think, yeah, I think we've got them. Most of them were just comments to what we were saying. So all good there.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And make sure that you put it on your calendar so you don't miss out on a Wednesday live with us, and bring your challenges, bring your problems, and we'll put our heads together and come up with a really good solution. I promise. All right. So the quote I have is from Steve Jobs, and I probably used it before, but it's a good one. If you are working on something exciting that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you.
Love it. There you have it.
There you
Thank you, as always, everyone, for tuning in, for listening to our show. We're grateful to have you here. We're here to help you. Reach out, allow us to help you, allow us to serve you in a higher capacity to get you through all this stuff. So have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, a great rest of your weekend, and we will catch you next week. See
Bye,
you.
everyone.